Well, hello there, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of News Tonight. My name is Eric Munene. Tonight, it is just 5 days to the day that you determine who your leader for the next 5 years is going to be, because that is your constitutional right. However, we wish to send a simple message to you that the election will come and go, but this country will be there beyond Tuesday next week. Your neighbor has been your friend for the last 5 years. He was not named Kamau or Omondi or Kiplangat or even Mutua, Baraza or Menya, you name them, due to this election. Kenya is bigger than all of us. Peace must prevail. We are all Kenyans. And these are the stories making headlines tonight. Tonight, Roots Party presidential flag bearer Professor George Wajakoya and his running mate talk different languages 6 days to the polls.
If push comes to shove and we need to take a stand on who to support out of the other three presidential candidates who are our worthy opponents, I say that I will support the contrary.
Justina Wamae says she will support Ruto if Wajakoya supports Azimio's Raila Odinga. Also tonight, the US Embassy in Nairobi cautions its citizens against traveling to Kisumu in its travel advisory.
So I would like the US Embassy, through our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our Internal Security Ministry, to really absolve Kisumu of any tension during this period.
Plus, an activist moves to court to bar UDA's Rigathi Gachagua and 12 others from vying in Tuesday's polls over integrity issues. And Uhuru campaigns for Raila in Kisii as Ruto and Raila traverse Mount Kenya and Kakamega respectively. Well, our sign language anchor tonight is Catherine Simoloi. Good evening once more. The Roots Party's Justina Wamae has confirmed allegations that her principal, Professor George Wajakoya, is indeed supporting Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga. Wamae says that Professor Wajakoya's decision is a personal one, hinting that her support might be going towards the opposite direction. Allegations that the duo are a government project have been doing rounds on social media, with the latest viral video showing Wajakoya professing his support for Raila Odinga during one of his rallies. Have a look.
Days to the much-awaited August 9th general election, confusion is looming in Roots Party as presidential hopeful George Wajakoya and his running mate Justina Wamae have seemingly disagreed publicly on whether to proceed to the ballot or rally their support behind one of their competitors. Reacting to a viral video of a Roots rally in an entertainment joint in Kisumu, where Wajakoya is perceived to have declared his support for Azimio candidate Raila Odinga, Justina has distanced herself from the decision, saying it was a personal decision and does not necessarily represent the decision of the party.
I'm speaking as Justina, who understands her role. It is to amplify the voices of the youth and the women, as well as consolidating the voice of the men. It's true, the allegations that my principal and party leader is supporting Azimio, but we have not discussed that as a party. We have not agreed, and neither have I been consulted.
Justina has further hinted that her support will go towards the opposite direction should Wajakoya choose to go down that road.
Our supporters were asking which direction are we taking, so they needed me to speak because it has been 2 times we have been branded a project. So I say that we have not agreed as a party, have not been consulted regarding this move, and if it comes to push and shove, then I will support the contrary.
In a statement to newsrooms earlier on Wednesday, Roots Party denied claims that their presidential candidate endorsed another presidential candidate, the party declaring that it intends to be in the ballot come Tuesday next week. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
With President Uhuru Kenyatta's 10-year tenure coming to an end, Kenyatta has shared a brief insight on his journey with his deputy William Ruto, citing that he is a man eternally propelled by selfish interests and thus unfit to be president. Muthoni Maina has more.
With 5 days to the Tuesday polls, President Uhuru Kenyatta has yet again hit out at his deputy, William Ruto, terming him as a man who is inclined on self-interests. The head of state, who has been campaigning against Ruto for the last few days, says voting for Ruto will be making the wrong choice for the country's head of state.
Lakini ukiwa unafika pale karibu unaendelea, unaangalia nyuma, unaona kiti ya nyuma imerushwa nje na kuna mwingine ameishika huko, unamuuliza passenger ndio huyo ameporwa mali. Hai mnaendelea, gurudumu imeshuka, unamuuliza wewe fanya repair. Badala ya kufanya repair ameenda na hiyo gurudumu ameenda kuuzia mwingine, kuweka kwa gari lingine.
Speaking at State Lodge with an array of leaders in Kisii, President Kenyatta, in reference to last week's presidential debate, castigated Ruto's response on the terms that led to the turning over of a new leaf, absorbing new appointees to his administration in the second term.
Na akajibu akasema, ni mshenzi peke yake hawezi kubadilisha fikira. Mimi nikapiga makofi sana, nikasema hiyo ni point. Hiyo ni point mzuri sana. Kwa sababu ni kweli ni mshenzi peke yake hawezi kubadilisha fikira. So hata mimi nimebadilisha fikira kwa sababu mimi pia sio mshenzi.
Same time, Uhuru commended Interior CS Fred Matiang'i on taking over Ruto's wheel and carrying on the assigned duties without hitches.
Kutoka wakati niliweka huyu ndugu yangu huyu Matiang'i kuwa chairman, mikutano inaendelea na sio mikutano ya kuuliza nani anapatiwa contract, ni mikutano ya kuuliza kazi hii imefika wapi na itamalizika siku gani ndio rais akuja afungue.
These as he praised the upward trajectory implemented by the handshake with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Sasa hiyo handshake imeleta shida, imeleta sijui nini, hakuna kazi inaendelea. Jameni, tumeweza kuyafanya mara 3 yale tulikuwa tunafanya wakati gurudumu zilikuwa zinangolewa.
Mfoni Maina, TV47.
Our Kenya Kwanza Alliance flag bearer and Deputy President William Ruto now seems to have changed his tactics in wooing Mount Kenya region, toning down attacks against his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta. As Mike Agwongo reports, the second in command now maintains that he has always respected the president and also cautioned his supporters from singing songs to reprimand the head of state.
5 days to August 9th general election. One of the leading horses to the house on the hill, Kenya Kwanza, marching forward to woo different regions daily to solidify their support ahead of next week's DD. After months of attacks by his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, following his decision to support Azimio la Umoja One Kenya flag bearer Raila Odinga, the DP now seems to play a soft game against the head of state. Speaking in Kirinyaga in Kiambu counties Wednesday, Ruto said he and his team respect the president, but cannot agree with his decision to back former opposition leader Raila Odinga as his successor.
Tangu jamaa wa kitendawili aingie kwa serikali yetu, kabla ya handshake, bei ya unga ilikuwa 90 bob. Leo watu wa handshake wamesukuma bei ya unga mpaka 230.
While lobbying for support in Thika, Ruto told the residents he has never disrespected the president, contrary to what Kenyans have been made to believe.
Unajua huyu mtu wa kitendawili amedanganywa. Ati ameambiwa ati kura itapigwa na deep state. Ati na ingine inaitwa system. Ati na machief na wengine. Ati nyinyi wa Kenya wapigaji kura, ati you don't matter. Lakini si nyinyi ndio mtaamua.
At some instance holding his supporters brief when they attempted to sing songs attributed to rebuke his boss. Ruto said it was regrettable that president has been made to believe that he and his Kenya Kwanza brigade are evil, yet they have always been supporting him.
We are telling our Azimio friends, they must stop abusing public officers. They must stop abusing public officials. Public officials are complaining that they are being forced to undermine the election, to bribe voters, to sabotage this election because the Kitendawili man knows very well that we cannot win this election free and fair.
His running mate Rigathi Gachagua told national administrators not to be misled by the senior state officers to advance the interests of particular political camps that must remain neutral and serve all Kenyans.
Chiefs are not election officials. They have no role within the polling station. Their work in the polling station is for IEBC officials, agents for candidates, and the police officers. Hawa machief wakuja wapige kura waende nyumbani.
Na kazi ya chief, kazi ya DO, kazi ya DC, apige kura aende nyumbani. Hakuna chief atakaa kwa kituo cha kupiga kura.
Ruto's allies now saying the real opinion polls was set for August 9. They urged Kenyans not to be swayed by polls released by firms they described as sponsored by interested parties.
Tunaambia hao fake pollsters, hata mtoe polls hata parawa. Next week huyo mzee tunamsafirisha. Hata mwaka wa 2017 walitoa ati Uhuru na Ruto walikuwa na 38%. Walikuwa wameweka huyo mzee ako na 54. Mimi nataka kusema opinion poll ni nyinyi, si ndio? Nyinyi mmeulizwa maswali. Kuna mtu ameuliza maswali. Tukipiga hesabu yetu tunajua ya kwamba mbele iko sawa na William Samoei Ruto. Mbele iko sawa na William Samoei Ruto. Asante.
After traversing Mount Kenya region for 2 days, Deputy President William Ruto will now be heading to Coastal Region Thursday before clutching a final rally in Nairobi County Saturday. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Kemende in Kiambu County.
Thank you, Mike Kagwongo, for that. Azimio One Kenya presidential hopeful Raila Odinga led his campaigns in the western region, traversing counties of Kakamega, Busia and Bungoma. And as Violet Auma now reports, Raila has reiterated that he will revive the economy if elected the 5th president.
A month after Azimio One Kenya presidential hopeful Raila Odinga and his Azimio brigade held a rally at Buhungu Stadium, the team was yet again in Western Kenya, holding rallies in Bungoma, Busia and Kakamega counties in a bid to secure the region's votes that has been considered Odinga's stronghold.
Mpango hapa ni wa Raila Amolo Odinga peke yake. Nasema uongo? Unajua wale wajamaa walikuja nikapunga hii stadium.
Tukianguka tutaenda kwa shimo, hatutaweza kutoka upesi. Lakini tukienda mahali inayofaa, nchi yetu itainuka kiuchumi, kimaendeleo.
With 5 days remaining for Kenyans to go to the ballot August 9th, the leaders gave their last shot to the Mulembe nation, urging them to rally behind Odinga as it has been in the past.
Hii uchaguzi ambayo inakuja, tuko pande hii ni kama usiku na mchana. Ukienda kushoto, unaenda kwa ufisadi. Ukienda kulia, unaenda kwa ukombozi.
Odinga and Karua slammed their opponents for not being genuine with their promises to Kenyans.
Ahadi ya mdomo tupu ni ahadi ya mfisadi sugu.
The two promised to liberate Kenyans from shackles of poverty, tough economic times, and fight corruption if given opportunity to lead the country.
Bila kumaliza ufisadi, hata kama ufanye nini, uweze kumaliza hawa madui matatu. Kwa sababu gani? Wewe unafanya juhudi pande hii, unajenga pande hii, nenda bomoka pande hii.
Mpatie baba na mama kura. Hizo panya roots za kuchukua pesa tufunge mara moja.
The Azimio team challenged their opponents to come out clean on matters corruption. They have also called for peace during campaigns and after August polls.
Tumesema tunataka hii kampeni iishe kwa njia ya amani. Kuna wengine kule bonde la Ufa wameanza kutoa vitisho dhidi ya watu wengine ambao wanaishi huko.
Raila was accompanied by a host of leaders affiliated to Azimio One Kenya, among them COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli, Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya and his Vihiga counterpart Wilbur Otichilo.
Jamaa akaanza kulia tu, macho ikaanza kutiririka machozi. Mimi nataka kuambia yeye, hiyo machozi ni kidogo. Tarehe 10 Utalia zaidi mpaka ujaze ndo.
Uhuru hayuko kwa ballot. Wawache kurusha mishale kwa rais anastaafu next week. Na wawache kusema tumetumwa na rais. Tumetumwa na rais au na nyinyi?
Violet Auma, TV47, Kakamega.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, insists that the manual register will only be used in instances where the KIEMS kits fail completely and there is no possibility of repair or replacement. IEBC also says claims by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition that 3,000 KIEMS kits are missing is not only false but misleading. In response to questions raised by Azimio la Umoja and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, IEBC says the 3,000 kits marked as missing by the Auditor General are BVR kits used to register voters and not the KIEMS kits used to identify voters.
In a 10-page document containing responses by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC on questions raised by presidential candidates, their agents and political alliances, the commission has dispelled rumors that there are ungazetted polling stations. IEBC says the polling stations have been gazetted in 2 gazette notices dated the 1st and 26th of July this year, and there is a total of 46,229 polling stations spread out across the country. On the question of addressing discrepancies that may arise in results captured in Form 34A that will be posted at the polling station, Form 34A transmitted electronically to the tallying center, and Form 34A to be availed to the agents, IEBC says there is no chance of discrepancies. The Wafula Chebukati-led commission says results declared at the polling station in the presence of all observers and agents are final. Presidential results are recorded in Form 34A that will be scanned using the KIEMS kit and transmitted to the National Tallying Center at the Bomas of Kenya. After signing the Form 34A, the original copies will be submitted to the constituency returning officer, and each agent of the 4 presidential candidates given a copy. Discrepancies on Form 34A can only be resolved by the
Well, we do apologize for that technical hitch. Now, moving on. Meanwhile, the electoral body, IEBC, says that no presidential ballot papers have been distributed, even as the distribution of the other elective positions ballot papers stands at 60%. The poll agency has stated that the distribution exercise will be complete by the 6th of August, just 3 days before the fast approaching August 9th general polls. TV47's Moige William with more on election preparations.
Presidential ballot papers will be the last election materials to be distributed across all the 47 counties, with the exercise set to begin on the 5th of August. The last batch of ballot papers is expected to land in the country Wednesday evening.
That we started distributing ballot papers on 1st of August at around 12 o'clock. As you can remember, we received the first bunch of ballot papers on the 7th of July, and since that time, ballot papers have been arriving from our printers in Greece.
According to IEBC, returning officers in 216 constituencies across 35 counties have received ballot papers as election preparations enter their final stretch. 364 pallets of gubernatorial ballot papers have been distributed, with 368 pallets of senatorial ballot papers, 410 pallets for the women representative position, 439 pallets for the member of parliament, and 439 pallets for member of county assembly ballot papers.
90% of them have already been distributed to the various constituencies in the country, and they are being received there by our returning officers at the constituencies.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has further stated that 90% of non-strategic materials have been distributed to various areas across the nation, with 700 million Kenya shillings set aside for the whole exercise, which commenced on the 7th of July.
So, as of now, we have not distributed any presidential ballot papers. and you are still receiving. The last bunch is supposed to arrive this evening.
However, the poll agency has noted that in some regions, due to security concerns, they will airlift election materials such as Mandera, Lamu, Wajir, Garissa and Turkana.
So these areas is whereby it may be difficult going by road because of the security situation in that area to deliver the materials by road. That is why we have opted for that kind of a facility.
According to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the distribution of election materials now stand at 60%, with the distribution of presidential ballot papers set to begin on the 5th of August before the conclusion of this particular exercise on the 6th of August. Mwege William, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you, Mwege William, for that. Now, Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, ICT, Mucheru, has assured Kenyans that the government has no plans of shutting down the internet during the anticipated Tuesday's election. Speaking during a breakfast meeting with the Kenya Editors Guild, Mucheru added that the government will maintain democracy during and after election. He further reiterated that his ministry will collaborate with the Ministry of Interior to uphold the communications, that the communications are not disrupted, especially in tallying centers.
Fact-checking, misinformation and disinformation. I'd like to know who is in the room, so we'll do quick introductions and then I'll invite the
Jaleo and editor of
Good morning, Daniel Dago from Safaricom.
We are on record that we are not shutting down first the internet. I think as a country, you all know, people have spent a lot of time and made a lot of comments and statements, even of His Excellency the President, that are false, but it has not led us to shutting down. So as the President has stated, there is no reason to then shut down the internet during this election period. I think we enjoy a very democratic space, and people, yes, make a lot of statements that sometimes are not true and sometimes insults, things that we don't even, they're unprintable and so on. But we've made that commitment. Your president was earlier asking me about the comments on NCIC and shutting down the Facebook platform. I made a comment and a statement that as government, we are committed to the freedom of press. The same was reiterated by the Interior Minister, our CS, Fred Matiang'i, because that is our position as government. We are not going to or planning to shut down any media. But if we have a security issue, a national security issue, that becomes a different story. But for now, I don't think there's anything that we are anticipating that would lead to that kind of action.
Moving on, at least 12 petitioners have filed a petition to block 12 candidates, among them Kenya Kwanza's Rigathi Gachagua, over integrity questions. Now, the activists want the candidates blocked before Tuesday's polls, as Paul Kirobi now reports.
12 petitioners filed a case at the High Court challenging the eligibility of the 12 candidates to run for office on Tuesday. The petitioners now want the candidates blocked over integrity issues. Among them is Kenya Kwanza presidential running mate Rigathi Gachagua from contesting, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, Senator Johnson Sakaja, Governors Muthomi Njuki and Ali Korane, as well as Dado Godana and Kilifi UDS gubernatorial candidate Aisha Jumwa. Others are MPs John Waluke, seeking another term on a Jubilee ticket in Sirisia constituency, Samuel Aram of Nakuru Town West on a Jubilee ticket, Oscar Sudi, who is vying for Kapsaret parliamentary seat, and a UDA, and Migori Governor Okoth Obado. The petitioners now want the court to determine whether Gachagua is fit and suitable to hold any public office following the recent ruling of the High Court, directing him to forfeit 202 million Kenya shillings to the government over graft. They want the court to expedite action against Gachagua, saying his candidature is illegal and political risk, likely to subvert and compromise Kenya's constitutional order. They argue that Ruto's United Democratic Alliance Party has violated the constitution to uphold integrity and leadership values. The activists further want the matter referred to the Chief Justice Martha Koome to appoint a 3-judge bench to hear and determine the suit. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Oh, the US Embassy in Nairobi is now advising its citizens against traveling to Kisumu ahead of the Tuesday's polls. And as Stanley Nyaringita reports, Kisumu County Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o has faulted the advisory, terming it ill-advised.
Hours after publishing a controversial routine security alert that raised eyebrows in the country, the US Embassy in Kenya has released yet another update. According to the fresh update, and I quote, alerts of this nature to American citizens are common ahead of elections throughout the world, and the United States has no information to suggest the security situation in Kisumu or in any other parts of Kenya have been adversely affected by election preparations. The update further stated that Kisumu hosts a significant number of US Embassy personnel and is a frequent travel destination for American citizens. The US Department of State has no greater responsibility than the safety and security of US citizens overseas and routinely issues security alerts surrounding elections, health conditions, and extreme weather, ensuring US citizens have information that helps inform travel plans. End of quote. In the previous alert dated 2nd of August, the embassy had stated that it had imposed movement restrictions on personnel in Kisumu. Kisumu Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o has however faulted the advisory.
We sincerely do apologize for that. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has launched a call center for Kenyans to report election offences in what civil society groups have termed as a game changer in taming poll violations. Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji said the call center will serve as a deterrent to election violence and other offences which will be prosecuted in real time. Have a look.
The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, alarmed by the ongoing charged campaigns laced with a spike in hate speech, has moved in to tame election violence and related offences by launching an election call centre where Kenyans can report offences in real time. The call centre will not only assist the police in investigating the offences, but will help in securing evidence for the prosecution, while serving as a major deterrent to those who may want to commit crimes.
Whatever information we'll have here will be used in Kenyan courts or tribunals, or the ICJ if it has to, or other international courts. And we are preparing ourselves for that eventuality. So this will be a very important tool to allow us to be effective in discharging our mandate and in ensuring that we deliver a peaceful, free and fair election.
Kenyans reporting election offences on election day can use toll-free numbers 080-072-3377 or 254-110-939-802. According to the DPP, those that give evidence will be protected as stipulated in the Witness Protection Act. The call center, to be manned by 8 people, is a mapping tool which will give information on key hotspots, the name of the offences, the prosecution team, and whether the matter has been resolved.
We will need witnesses. We will need to know where and what is happening. And anonymity, we have what we call the Witness Protection Agency that we will call upon, and they are part of our partners in this.
With the 2007-2008 post-poll violence still fresh in the minds of Kenyans, the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and civil society groups have termed the election call center a game changer in deterring election violence.
And this elections call center is an important resource and tool to be able to support responses and follow-up to reports of electoral offences, including human rights violations and hate speech.
And everybody has the right to vote in an environment that is free of intimidation, that is free of violence, and is free of bribery.
Ni hatua nzuri. Na kama tunavyojua mara nyingi watu walioko nje ya Nairobi husahaulika. Mara nyingi huwa hawawezi kufikia.
The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has deployed 200 prosecutors for next week's general election. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Moving on, as the drought situation in some parts of the country persists, the government, through the Ministry of Gender and its development partners, has launched the Lisha Jamii initiative aimed at providing food assistance and cash transfers to a portion of the 4.1 million Kenyans facing food insecurity. Elizabeth Atieno with more.
It is 11 months since President Uhuru Kenyatta declared drought a national disaster. The number of Kenyans facing acute food insecurity in 23 counties has risen to 4.1 million, up from 3.5 million in March 2022. The affected counties include Marsabit, Wajir, Isiolo, Samburu, Baringo, Turkana, Mandera, Garissa, Kilifi, Kwale, Lamu, Laikipia, West Pokot, Meru, Nyeri, Tharaka Nithi and Kitui.
On the IEBC food insecurity phase classification, 3 counties are in emergency, 80 counties are in crisis, 12 counties are stressed, and the 24 counties are yet to be assessed.
If the months of September to December experience depressed rainfall, then the number of people in need of relief food is expected to rise to 4.35 million by December, which will in turn raise the government's expenditure of drought mitigation. So far, the government has spent 12.6 billion on interventions like emergency relief, hunger safety and cash transfer programs, livestock feeds and water response activities, which have been largely contributed by the private sector and the county governments.
However, despite the interventions, the persistent drought has left the country with a resource gap of more than 15 billion Kenya shillings for interventions required in critical sectors of food security, health and nutrition, water, agriculture, livestock, and education.
The anticipated increase in the number of Kenyans affected by hunger has prompted the Ministry of Gender and its development partners to launch the Lisha Jamii initiative that will provide food assistance and cash donation to the affected families for a period of 6 months.
We're talking about 2.1 million people faced by severe food insecurity across Kenya. We're now looking at the prospect of double that, more than double that, 4.35 million Kenyans going hungry from October if the 5th rains fail.
Consequently, the number of people in need of relief assistance could easily rise from 4.1 projected to 4.35 projected by December 2020.
The Lisha Jamii initiative targets 59,000 families from the counties of Turkana, Samburu, Isiolo, Garissa, Tana River, Baringo, Mandera, Wajir, Kitui, Kilifi, Kwale, and Marsabit. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Hey! Kaluma King Herbal Lozenges zinazo nguvu maradufu kutuliza kikohozi, vidonda vya koo na mafua. Kaluma King ni shwari.
Tika mama huyo muharifu kaiba kuku zangu, vifaranga wangu na mayai zote pia kabeba. Haya, tika mama huyo.
Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Sanura amerudi kwa wale wasiojua. Mtu yeyote asifungue kinywa chake kuongea na yeyote.
Wewe unasimama kidete kupinga mila ambazo wewe ulizifanya.
Mtoto wa kike akifikia umri anapaswa kuolewa, sio kuleta familia yake shida.
Sanura lazima olewe na Dula.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Tryson School of Medical Health Science and Technology is a premier training institute for market-driven courses. With state-of-the-art facilities, competent and dedicated members of staff, and linkages with the medical industry, you are assured of a bright future when you study with us. Enroll today in our campuses at Juja, Nairobi West, Kisumu, and Homa Bay.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata uondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Tunataka uwazi na kazi.
Number 1, nataka Kiambu iwe 24-hour economy. Nataka kuweka mataa 20,000. Nasigojei August. Naanza saa hii. Nataka kuunganisha mabarabara za Kiambu. Lami nikitaka kuweka 1,000 kilometers of road tarmac. Ile economic empowerment nataka kuweka ni viwanda, vile tunasema agro processing industry. So these are the objectives I want, because najua Kiambu, if you put enabling environment, watu wa Kiambu wanajua kazi yao na watawaifanya. Mkinipatia hiyo kiti, hiyo kazi nitawafanyia, hiyo kazi naijua. We can do that very very quickly. Mimi na iko na ile ujumbe, nakwambia mimi ni engineer, mhandisi mimi.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, KNCHR, has called on political leaders to promote peaceful elections as they traverse across the country, wrapping up the election period. With only 5 days to go, the KNCHR says that from its report, violence might erupt if politicians fail to accept the outcome of the results.
The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has called for the deployment of sufficient security personnel to the strongholds to ensure human rights are not violated before, during, and after the Tuesday election. This comes a day after Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i announced the deployment of more officers to the Rift Valley region.
The National Security Council has ordered additional security resources for this region.
The Commission therefore calls on sufficient contingency measures by all actors, including the Inspector General of Police, to deploy additional security to these areas and swiftly, in line with human rights principles and standards, contain any such incidences before they escalate.
The Commission has also pointed out that it is optimistic there will be a smooth transfer of power if the top presidential candidates willingly accept the results, whether they favor them or not. The Commission expressed gratitude in respect to the inclusion of women in this year's race, adding that 3 out of 4 presidential running mates are women.
Based on the history of our nation, the divisive and highly competitive politics that the country is currently witnessing, and the Commission's own analysis of the hotspots across the country, there is a likelihood that in strongholds of some of the candidates, there may be disgruntlement and civil unrest should their candidate not win the election.
Meanwhile, police officers in Nakuru County have assured a smooth running of the election, stating confidently that they are well equipped to ensure a peaceful election come next week. The Human Rights Commission further appealed to all the stakeholders to work hand in hand in order to deliver to Kenyans a free, credible and peaceful election. With only 5 days remaining to the general election, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is urging politicians to shun from insightful utterances that may lead to violence in the country. Flora Limuki, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you, Flora Limuki, for that. Now, the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, has released a report detailing that 745 women have encountered election-related sexual gender-based violence. According to FIDA, women aspirants, voters and supporters are encouraged to report the cases, asking relevant authorities to ensure the safety of all. Chepto Boyd with the details.
Declare the FIDA Kenya media.
As the country gears towards the August 9th election, cases of violation of human rights, especially on women, are reported to be on the rise.
Also responding to matters.
According to data from the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, 745 cases of election-related sexual agenda-based violence by women have been reported countrywide since the nomination period.
We are reporting more cases of verbal and verbal hate speech. We are also reporting more cases on cyber, online and online harassment as opposed to physical assault.
According to the lobby group, Siaya County leads in the violation with 59 cases, trailed by Kisumu, Nairobi, Kericho and Marsabit, adding that SGBV is prevalent against women aspirants, voters and supporters.
I think one of the things we're analyzing is also the reason for the violence. But from this very early stage, we can see a lot of the counties where the numbers are high are also predominantly areas where politics is really highly contested. So there could be a correlation. So as we look at what will happen on the 9th of August, we'll also be issuing a post-election statement.
FIDA has promised to keep an eye on the election to ensure safety of women during the voting process, and that they have their lawyers in every county to undertake disputes from the electoral process.
Through IEBC, we remind and the government, we remind them of the primary responsibility of the importance of the free and fair elections, conduct ourselves with tolerance, and express our freedom of expression and assembly that is guaranteed in our constitution.
Women have been encouraged to report the cases, with the group asking relevant authorities to ensure safety of all Kenyans. It is estimated that 1 out of 3 women experience sexual or physical abuse in a lifetime, while GBV remains the most prevalent yet the least reported form of human rights violation and is exacerbated during emergencies. Chepto Boyd, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Chepto Boyd. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has apologized for the sudden closure of schools that most parents say inconvenienced their schedules as they try to make arrangements to get their children home. According to CS Magoha, the unprecedented closure of schools was occasioned by IEBC's preparations ahead of August 9th general election. Andrin Kilemi now reports.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has taken full responsibility for the unprecedented closure of schools that tossed parents into confusion as they scrambled to get their children home safely.
I know that people are very unhappy that the schools were closed abruptly. Let me apologize on behalf of government. But you see, the Electoral Commission must be given whatever they want, whenever they want, in order to be able to carry out a free, fair and justifiable election.
In a statement issued Monday, Magoha directed that all students from basic institutions would proceed on their half-term effective Tuesday.
Sahi atakaa ni fair, ni kukopa tunakopa. Yeah? Sahi watoto wametoka mbali, sahi mimi nimeendea mtoto wangu kutoka huko Kidhongori, sahi hata mimi sina fare, sahi nimeitisha mtu hapa rafiki yangu.
According to the education boss, the decision to close schools was to allow IEBC enough time to prepare for the August 9 general election, as most schools would be used as polling centers.
So the small pain that I have caused you, I take full responsibility because I'm the one who was supposed to say it. I think the swords you have sent on me are now enough. But it's also important that the Electoral Commission gets access to schools, and not to say that we did not give them enough time to prepare for the election.
Magoha was speaking after launching new CBC classrooms at Umoja Secondary School in Uasin Gishu County, further assuring parents that learning would resume smoothly after election.
So as I take full responsibility, please try and understand that I love the children, and I would be the last person to put their life or anything at risk.
The government is committed to ensure the needed infrastructure is in place before December, as learners in junior secondary schools are expected to begin next year. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
Our police in Nakuru have arrested the leader of Mawanga killer gang, Dickson Masharia Waithera alias Diko. A 35-year-old in Nakuru is alleged to be the confirmed gang leader that has been committing crimes in Nakuru County. Chichi Josephine with that story.
Dickson Masharia was arrested last night in his parents' home in Kivumbini Estate through a concerted effort by security officers in the region for some time now.
Following the death of Biggie, the elder member of the royal family, then of course his brother, Cody Deco, who is with us here now, took over the reins. And he equally now continued with the operations, and it has been very difficult to reach him. But fortunately last night, an operation was conducted and we were able to catch up with him.
The recent murders of 6 women in Nakuru hit the highlights on the dreaded gang that was outlawed during Kaiseri's tenure. In the recent cases, 4 gang members were killed in Ballot area.
In fact, he's assisting.
According to Nakuru County Police Commander Peter Mwanzo, security personnel who were acting on the intelligence leads recovered 3 phones, a laptop and narcotics valued at over 331,000 from the suspect.
Proceeds that already he had was 5,535. And of course, a consignment of bangi, together inclusive of all these roll, of the market value of 331,220.
The suspect is alleged to have been operating a well-organized drug syndicate within Nakuru, where he is believed to have recruited over 200 youth to sell narcotics.
The intelligence that we got is that this gentleman coordinates a network of more than 200 young men. Every morning, they all congregate to his residence within Kivumbini, collect the drugs, and he distributes the drug. He has a network that distributes the drugs within Nakuru.
Masharia is suspected to be responsible for planning of the gang activities, according to the police, and is expected to be arraigned in court tomorrow. Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
Ford Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula has criticized the government following the move to deny Kenya Kwanza Alliance a venue to hold their last rally slated for this weekend in Nairobi. Wetangula says they will be forced to hold roadside rallies in the city to wrap up their campaigns ahead of the next week's general election. Boniface Baraza has the details.
In their tour of expansive Trans Nzoia County, the Ford Kenya party boss pointed an accusing finger at the government agencies for denying them a stadium to hold their last rally this weekend.
Tulitaka Nyayo Stadium wakafunga. Tulitaka Kasarani wakafunga. Na vile wanatufungia sisi, wanafungulia kitendawili Kasarani. Sasa tumeambia Uhuru na serikali yake tutafanyia rally yetu ya mwisho Kenyatta Avenue.
Other leaders who accompanied him in the campaign trail called on the electoral body not to be manipulated and instead oversee a credible poll.
IEBC must ensure there's free, fair and credible elections. Nimesikia watu wengine wanajikamba ati wanajipanga kuiba kura. Sisi tunachunga kura, na mtu mwenye atatembea kuiba kura tutaonana na hawa watu mundu.
The campaign saw Dr. Chris Wamalwa receiving a major boost after Timothy Kiplagat Koril, an independent candidate in the Trans Nzoia gubernatorial contest, shelved his ambition and supported Wamalwa.
Mimi nilikuwa naambia watu mimi ni namba 2 mgongoni, lakini sasa nimevuta namba 2 twende namba 6. Hiyo kura yote